Alrighty, we should be live. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. It is November 3rd. It was a balmy 60 degrees outside today. Got some yard work done. Took the dog on a walk. I hope you all are doing well. What has been going on? I know we posted the link for this stream a little bit later than I normally like to. I like to make sure to give you guys a couple hours in notice just because I know some people like to be aware it's happening. Not everyone knows we do this every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and I'm so glad you all could make it. And we love our early crew. I saw a bunch of you pop up in the chat like as soon as I had the link ready, and I really appreciate that. So thank you to Wixie and Lexi and DJ Basehawk and Meowlina and Aspen Little and Mr. Beansman and Lara and Keiseto Kaiba. Let's see who else is in here. Who is watching? And Sean and Baxter Woods and Grace and Andrew and Emma and Plan Chaos and Kirby's and Sonja and Dale. And I think, and Lou, can't forget about Lou. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for joining me. You just discovered the channel. Welcome, Ashanti. Welcome. If you're new here, welcome. Every Friday, we have a Q&A live stream. We work for about 2 hours, starting at 6 o'clock Pacific time. So I guess I will just go into the full intro spiel here. Yes, I did. I try to do every once in a while and try to like say hello to people because I know it's like I like, you know, you guys are taking time out of your Friday to listen to me and or at least have me on in the background while you're doing chores or getting ready for an event. So I appreciate you guys being here. Sock Taters, Sneak and Poke, and Brit, and a Bubble Nymph, and Amy. Hello, Amy. Have not seen you for a minute. I hope you are doing well. And Hellhound, of course. We do have several of our mods here in the chat. We have Hellhound. We have, I believe I saw Twixie earlier. Have a couple of them floating around here, and they are very helpful. Actually, you know what? I've been meaning to do this for a while. I will just you know. Oh, and Nathan. Obviously, I was like, I didn't see Nathan yet. I don't know if Nathan's here, but we got our mods in the chat, and they just help us out, having a good time during this stream. If you are new here, you haven't been. This is an 18+ only live stream, so we are here to help answer your questions related to BDSM, and by we, I mean me and my dog. And we hang out and we talk about kink, poly, BDSM, open relationships, dating apps, what else? Like just life stuff in general we talk about. We're here to hang out and hopefully help you all and just, you know, have a fun time really. And basically what you all need to know about is we do have rules and an FAQ down below, so please read that. It's pretty basic. Basically, don't spam the chat, be polite, listen to the mods, all the usual stuff. And then for how I operate this, the way this works is I will have the chat open, both kind of like the current chat, and I will also scroll through the past. And I answer questions in the order they come in. So if you want to get your question answered, because I do tend to give very thorough responses, I recommend answering early or asking early so I can answer it. Please don't spam the chat if I have not gotten to your question yet. I probably haven't seen it. These days, you know, we used to, like years ago, I would get the same question like 5 times in one live stream, and I feel like we just have a really good community here, and we don't get a lot of we get very unique questions, and I love that. But of course, you'd have like a more basic question like, how do I tell my boyfriend I want to try BDSM? Where can I buy this kind of toy from? Whatever, like that is probably answered in the FAQ, but I am also happy to answer it here. But just like go over that. It has lots of good links and good resources in there. But I don't give medical or mental health advice. And I believe that maybe put that in the title, sort of the idea of like kink isn't therapy, because I feel like that might be sort of like a good... Honestly, I kind of was toying around with the idea of like having it be a video topic because I feel like it's something that's worth having like a standalone conversation around. But also, I'm curious to hear what you all think about that phrase, or like, you know, where's your boundary with like kink as therapy or kink being therapeutic, and what does that mean to you? But yeah, we hang out, we have a fun time, and Oh, super chats. I was like, I think I forgot to mention that we have super chats. So if you want to, you can use a super chat, and that will show your chat over here somewhere. I think I moved it recently, and it'll display your question, and I will answer right away. Boots you up to the top of the list. Or if you just want to like share a cool sticker or a fun story, or just like share your appreciation, you don't have to have a question in a super chat if you don't want to, but that is like the key use for super chats. Or you can use either a super chat through YouTube, or I have a link to Streamlabs in the description box. The advantage of Streamlabs is that all of the donation goes to me, whereas if it is on YouTube, YouTube takes a cut, and like maybe you don't want to give Google free money for no work, so it's up to you what you think about that. But that's basically what y'all need to know. Oh, so you're right. I forgot. I need to make sure that Bandit Cam was on last time we streamed. But I did mean to have it back on. I'm sorry. I can't talk about it, but I was rushing up until we got to the start of the stream, and the fact I started 30 seconds late is a miracle, honestly. So I'm sorry I did not get to make sure that the camera was connected, but I appreciate the reminder. I will do that because that is an important bonus feature of these live streams. And it's a very special time to have the if you guys don't know, I have a very cute Pomeranian named Bandit who hangs out with me 24/7 because she is my tiny shadow, and she is currently still wearing her pumpkin outfit from Halloween because it's adorable, and also because just it's a good raincoat. Basically, it's like I found it was kind of water resistant, and I wasn't expecting that. But also I need to wash her dog bed, so I don't currently have it in here, so she's just kind of like chilling on the floor. But she's probably gonna go into like snooze mode sooner rather than later, because this is like, while I'm streaming, she just likes to snooze. She's like, all right, mom's in the room, we're hanging out, just likes to vibe. So there you go, there is the Banditti camera. She is very cute. I love her so much. She sometimes ends up in videos, like if she walks in from like off screen, but like normally when I film next to my bed, and I will put her, if she's around, I will put her up on my bed, and then she like stares at me while I film video. She's like a little audience. But normally, especially when the weather's nice, she's normally like outside and like wandering around outdoors when I'm filming. So not always on camera, but she is a beloved feature of these live streams, that is for sure. We were matching pumpkins on Halloween day. After we did a stream for Halloween here on the channel, and I was dressed up as a nun, and then I was hanging out to like watch movies with my roommates and like, you know, have Halloween treats, and I made apple pie, and it was really fun. And I wasn't expecting that we would get any trick-or-treaters, but I was like, on the outside chance, maybe I don't want to be dressed as like a nun. So I changed into a pumpkin hoodie, and so I was like a big pumpkin, and she was my little baby pumpkin. We were matching pumpkins, which was not intentional originally, but it was a delightful surprise. So anyways, oh, and also for the record, this isn't like a rule, but just as like a general guideline for people, one of the best ways to make sure your question gets answered is if you put like a Q or like the question mark emoji before or after your question, just like somewhere in the text, helps me find when I'm scanning through questions. I try to make sure I get to all of them, but if, you know, sometimes we have questions that come out more like statements, and it's helpful for me to be like, oh, that's a question, because sometimes people are just like sharing life stuff and it's not really a question. So yeah, I didn't get any trick-or-treaters. It was very sad. I mean, we didn't like, you know, last year we didn't get any, and like no one on our street decorated, so like I just thought, you know, maybe a kid's gonna be brave and like maybe they'll come by, but you know, better be prepared than not prepared. I honestly don't even know what I would have given them. I probably would have been like, can I give you a slice of apple pie? I don't know what I would have done, but no, we have candy. Actually, we did have some candy, but not like, you know, we didn't have a bowl or anything prepared. We didn't really do much. But anyways, let's get into some questions. Question time. Strawberry sake sounds really good. Does it taste like strawberry? Because I'm assuming it's sake that's made with strawberries, which sounds delightful. I have had like pear and like peach wine before, and that is dangerous stuff, I will tell you that. I'm excited because I might have finally found a dom. Oh, that's so great, Laura. That is amazing. It is a long process sometimes to find a worthwhile dom, and I am happy for you. Hopefully that works out and goes in a positive direction. That is great. Also, we love updates here. So if you have shared something before on the channel and you've like gotten a question answered, I love getting updates and like just hearing about your life stuff. So thank you, Andrew. If chat was a worm, would you still like us? Yes. If chat was a worm, I would still like you guys. I would not be sure how to communicate with you all if you were a worm, but you know, I'm not gonna be speciesist. I'd maybe be wondering how you're gonna apply the knowledge I'm sharing to your lives, but that would be fine. Honestly, these streams are about the only time of the week where I'm not multitasking that much. I mean, I'm thankful for that. I multitask all the time if I'm streaming. Like, I pop a stream on and it is housework time. It is laundry folding time. So I totally get that if that's you. First time joining the live, happy to be here. Well, you are welcome. Thanks for being here. Lots of new people every once in a while. I feel like every stream. We got like a handful of new people in this stream and we love it. I hope to see you again. But ask away. I love that Monster Kink video you've done. Sounds like fun. Thank you, Dale. If you guys have not seen, I posted a video yesterday. I think it was yesterday. About monster kinks. And that one was really fun. It was a little bit of I wanted to get it published for Halloween, but then I had like an editing issue where I don't know.
Rosie Rosette donated $7.34. Your donations were uneven, and it was bothering me. I hope this fixes it. I can't think of a question right now, but I'm sure I will after this donation goes through. Because that's how it always goes, isn't it?
Thank you so much. Thank you. I thank you for making it even. I'm sure there's more than one person in the chat who appreciates that. Is there something going on with my freaking not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming? What's going on there? YouTube. I had a good thing going for like a couple months, and then I feel like I don't know if did I change something? Maybe I just need to increase. I'll try increasing the bitrate. That may end up being a problem, but that's going to be my my first instinct, because I'm trying to stream in what amounts to 4K. I don't know what it actually ends up being. But thank you, Rosie. Yeah, the Monster Kink video was really interesting. I like sharing back end stuff sometimes because I feel like it like makes me seem human because I'm not perfect. But I had that video done like well before Halloween, and then I was watching it back. Oh, thank you, Mr. Beansman. Thank you for always being...
Mr. Beansman donated $5. Hi, Evie. Thanks for always being you. Me and my partner have a pet play session planned for next week.
I know we talked about that before, and thank you so much for the update, and I hope it goes well. Very exciting stuff. We are all going in a positive direction. I love that. It's great energy. It's my first live, but I've been subscribed for a while. Often send your videos to friends who come with me with kink questions. I just seem to be the person to ask in my group. IDK, how? You've gotten the reputation, and I'm glad I can help with that. That is, that warms my heart. I'm glad I can assist with the question stuff. But yeah, with YouTube, I was just having, I have this editing software that I use for my videos, and it's just... I have had this happen before, and I usually catch it because it looks different, but when you're editing a video, there's basically like this long solid bar that's like the picture part of the video, and then there's another part underneath that that's like a waveform for the sound in the video. And in my editing program, there is a little toggle you can use to increase or decrease the volume of the audio portion of the clip. And you can also manipulate the clip size to like cut something out or add something in and like a bunch of other stuff. And like I have accidentally just like through trying to maybe move something else, like maybe take out a video clip or add something else in, I have accidentally toggled the sound bar and increased or decreased the volume. But normally when that happens, I catch it right away because it gets really loud or really quiet. But I accidentally increased the decibels for the back half of the video by like 2.5 decibels, and it was just noticeably louder. I was like, oh fuck. So I had it already and uploaded, and I had to go back and I had to re-edit the audio, re-export it, re-upload it to YouTube, and then wait for the monetization to be checked again. And that's the part that takes the longest. Is YouTube by default now will automatically demonetize any video I upload, regardless of the content that is in the video I upload. And then I have to wait for a manual review. And that takes a couple days usually. So didn't get it quite in time for Halloween, but hopefully, you know, the Halloween spirit is alive in all of us, or something, I guess. So it'll, you know, it works out ultimately in the end. But yeah, YouTube is a fun thing. That's not really a question, but there's a little background story to the Monster Kink video, which I realized afterwards, like, talking about monster kinks and the studies around it, a lot of them mention, like, non-monster things in the kink, like, is a nymph a monster? Is an elf a monster? Like, there's sort of, like, fantasy creatures and mythical creatures and then monsters, and they're not always the same thing. So there's kind of some overlap in there. I also wish I would have maybe talked more about like predator-prey dynamics in Monster Kink. I think I mentioned it at some point, but it wasn't like a huge focus in the video because more of my focus was like I wanted people to understand like why people would be into Monster Kinks, and it turns out there's a crap ton of reasons why, let me tell you. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate the sticker. It says keep it up. There's a pair. I love it. Thank you. Okay, is the same streaming? Oh, is it the keyframes? I don't know why that started to be an issue again. It's the freaking keyframe interval. What is it recommending? It says 2. Okay, fine. We'll do that. Okay. I don't know if that's actually really going to change anything, but we'll see. Maybe that'll help the stream. Oh, no. Okay, now it says stream is healthy. That was literally it. Okay. My bad. I have it set to default set the keyframe interval for the stream, and like I feel like whenever there's an OBS update, it gets messed up and it stops working and I have to manually put it in again, but random information for you. But yeah, the Monster King video was really interesting. I just wanted to focus on, like, when I was researching it, I found that there were so many reasons for why people are into Monster Kinks. I was like, this has to be the focus of the video because it spans so many different things. And I feel like people that I've known, at least in real life, that have a Monster Kink, they tend to feel pretty alone about it. They tend to feel pretty, you know, like just alone. Oh, thank you again, Alex Chu. I appreciate that. Thank you for this. Oh, no, wait, that was the same super chat, but it just came through on the screen. So thank you. Yeah, I know a lot of people feel really alone and really weird for being into monsters, but you don't have to be. Being into monsters is great. It's a perfectly normal thing. And also, like, especially for queer folk, ace folk, trans folk, like all different people, like, we all have different reasons for finding a kinship, maybe, with monsters as a kink. But this is becoming more of a weekly thing. Definitely a great part of a week. Well, thank you, Doug. I'm glad that you appreciate it. Got a notification this week. That is probably because I started the stream preview 30 minutes before we were about to go live. I feel like I need to usually have it at least like 2 hours before a stream starts to make sure people get the notification properly, because there is a little bit of a delay there. It's been a hell of a time the last couple of weeks. Ready for some good vibes? Me too, KL. Me too. Good question. Do you think that Monster Kinks and Omegaverse ABO, as in Alpha, Beta, Omega, have similar origins? I could definitely do a whole thing about ABO stuff. So I feel like they are definitely related in terms of why people are into them. Like the origin of it, I think, is similar, but I'm not sure that they're like offshoots of each other. You know what I mean? Like I think monster kinks are so broad, and I would argue have been happening, which I didn't really talk about in the video, have been happening for a really long time, like in society, you know, as a society, right? Like with vampires and with like Frankenstein's monster, like sexualized, beastly, monstrous creatures have kind of been. It'll even go back to the Greece, right? You know, with like nymphs and satyrs, like it have like the allure of like a monstrous creature has been around for a very long time. So I think monster kinks in general are kind of there as a background piece, and I think for people to know what Omegaverse ABO stuff is, it's basically, and I'm not sure which fan fiction it originated with, but essentially it's a fan fiction subtype that involves you know, a world where there's alphas, betas, and omegas, and like alphas are the really dominant ones, and like betas are kind of like the common everyday people, and then omegas are like these special super bottoms and like super submissives basically that are like alluring and irresistible to alphas. I'm kind of giving this is like a broad overview. Like different ABO fiction universes probably have different things. This is just like my impression from what I know about it. So it's very specific. I am not sure if the authors of ABO stuff would be like cognizant of like monster kinks or like bad dragon toys or like anything like that. I think it sort of arose from, if I had to theorize, kind of like supernatural fan fiction itself being popular, and like I guess both in terms of Supernatural the TV series and also Supernatural as in like fantasy creatures. But yeah, I think they kind of have like similar internal origins, I think, and motivations personally of like enjoying, you know, like being able to fully like let go and kind of escaping from guilt and shame. And but I feel like the difference is like with ABO fan fiction stuff, from what I understand, like the whole world or the universe or at least the society that the characters are involved in, like alpha, beta, omega stuff is like part of that social framework, whereas like monster kinks, monsters generally are not the society. With like vampire stuff, like if you're looking at like what is it, Vampire Night or whatever, where there's like a separate or like parallel society of vampires. Like I feel like vampires are kind of the exception. For the most part with monster kinks, I feel like monsters are kind of like they are the other in society. It's not an alternative society from regular human like society, but it's like hidden and separate, and like that's part of it. Whereas with Omegaverse, I feel like a lot of it is like the society tends to be like all monsters. Does that make sense? I don't know if that's necessarily like completely different, but yeah, they overlap a lot, and I think it sort of depends on like the version of the monster kink and the version of like Omegaverse ABO stuff. But I think internally, certainly sort of this like desire to be overpowered and to be a submissive and to explore like sadomasochism and to like explore loss of control and not having to experience blame or guilt or shame. I think certainly all those things go along with monster kinks as well as with Omegaverse stuff. Absolutely. Vampire Night was one of my first mangas as well, for the record. I feel like I read like 3 of them. I didn't read a lot. I was more into like the slice of life stuff. Like I really liked Azumanga Daioh and like Yatsuba. Like those were more the manga I was reading at that point in my life. And if no one is gonna know, if anyone knows this manga, I would be really surprised. But there's a manga about a girl that wants to become a pop star that has throat cancer, and it's called like I think it's like Full Moon Woke, like Shagashite or something. And it's just full moon, basically. I don't know if anyone's gonna, that was the first manga I ever read. That one I got as like a birthday present from a friend, I think, one year. And like, I don't know how they picked that one. And then I get into like Full Metal Alchemist and like Bleach, and I read a little bit of Bleach, but then Death Note as well. Kind of the classics of the late aughts and the early 2010s. I was in like middle school. She's definitely napping. She's always napping. I don't think she's in like full nap mode. She's in like resting mode. She's in she's ready to go at a moment's notice. If she starts snoozing, I can hear it. She snores a little bit now. Because she lost some of her front teeth when she had dental work done recently. And I think because she can kind of stick her tongue through like the space between her upper and lower gums in the front, it causes her to snore a little bit more. And like it's mostly very cute. Luckily, it's quiet. I love that one. It was a full moon. Sakashite. I don't know how to pronounce the actual like Japanese part of that at all, but apparently some people know it at least. ABO is used a lot for mpreg scenarios. Okay, I have to admit, mpreg is like my anti-kink. No judgment to people that enjoy it. I just do not understand it. Like, but when I say I don't understand it, I understand it. Like, I don't personally relate to it at all, but I can, like, if you walk me through I like it because, like, it helps me explore these feelings. Like, I understand why people would like it. It's just so not my kink that I can't empathize with it in the way that I would, like, empathize, like, or be able to put myself into a lot of other kinks. So, mpreg. That was, like, a big thing on Tumblr, though. Like, that was, listen, the horny police are coming to get me. I don't know if you guys can hear that. There was a siren that went by. They're gonna arrest me for kink shaming because I said I don't like mpreg. But, like, that was all over, like, Tumblr for a while. I don't know if that's still, like, I feel like maybe that was kind of a trend, but I had enough, especially when I was, like, I think before I was in the kink community and I didn't yet have a lot of processing done around, like, my repulsion to genitalia. Like, I was much more grossed out by it than I am now. I could not even begin to be like, what's this about? Like, can't do it. Not to kink shame. If that's your kink, more power to you. And, like, frankly, honestly, like, not to out anybody, be aware these streams are recorded and stay on my channel, but if anyone could explain to me the appeal of that specifically, I would love to know, because I know that, like, a lot of male-male pairings, especially with ABO, tends to be a lot of straight women, and I would just love to know more. Like, I'm in a place where I can process that now compared to when I was, like, 18, so let me know, but, it's one of those things. I'm definitely always, the Tumblr was just a thing. It was just a thing on there, like Once-Ler fanfiction. Oh shoot, I don't know why it did not show me. Oh, here we go. mpreg fic to trans girl pipeline. There may be a connection there. Just wanted to say thanks for all that you do. Your vids and streams have helped us immeasurably, and I'm honored to be part of the mod squad. You are so welcome, Lexi. You are a consistent, wonderful person, and I'm glad that you are here, and you're very welcome. So thank you. Oh, there it is. I was like, I think I missed Lexi's thing when I was ranting about mpreg. I love reading spicy books, but all the monster ones tend to have it says inpreg. I think it means mpreg, and I personally can't do it. Like, yeah, like, we love lesbian Omegaverse, especially all my bookmarks in IO3. I mean, we've talked about, like, Omegaverse stuff before, and I think I've said that, like, I haven't ever read anything that's Omegaverse related, but if I did, I think it would probably have to be lesbian Omegaverse stuff. Like, I don't think I could do it if there was penises involved, I gotta be honest. I now feel kind of uncomfortable with it being a trend because the idea of it is kind of transphobic. It's always weird when this society is like, a pregnant man, how strange. Oh, yeah. Like, I remember before, because I was a very sheltered child, I didn't know that trans people were a thing. Like, I didn't know that was a thing that happened. And there was a story that I remember was in all of the tabloid newspapers of, like, a man being pregnant. And, like, it didn't register to me that you could be a man and have a uterus or, like, get pregnant. And I just remember being like, it happens in real life. And like, I don't know how well the tabloids at that point in time explained it, but it was definitely definitely fodder. Definitely fodder at that point. For the media. I don't think anything like that would be published today, honestly. Our society has gone in quite a different direction since then. I have to share, I just received my new 10-string Scottish lyre. I love that. Or lyre? Lyre? I think it's lyre, right? That's so specific, and I am happy for you. I'll never see cartoon characters the same because of MPreg. Honestly, I think that maybe is why, because even before Tumblr, on DeviantArt, there was a lot of fucking Sonic shit that had that in there. And I feel like as like a 12-year-old, I should not have been exposed to that. Because I was on DeviantArt for like the most like pure reasons imaginable. Like I had like a photography hobby with like my friends because we didn't have MySpace or anything, so we couldn't like post our photos on there. So we had like a photography like just like we weren't on there for like fan fiction or anything like that. We just wanted to post photos and talk to each other in like middle school, and just my eyes were not prepared. I wasn't ready, and I don't know what DeviantArt is like these days, but I did not have the language or knowledge to be able to process what I was seeing on screen. That is for sure. I mean, I wouldn't be scared of your friend as a Sonic fan. It's just like, you know, some people are into certain things, and for whatever reason, like the Sonic franchise seemed to really capture a lot of people's imagination. Maybe let's say it like that. I played in a kinky D&D game where horns were a big deal, like devil horns. Yeah, that makes sense to me. People get horny for horns. My partner and I went to a kink convention a couple weekends ago. It was so much fun. I love the energy of conventions. It reminds me of why I love the BDSM community so much. Me too, Sky. Maybe we went to the same convention. There were a couple, I think, around the same weekend. But I went to Dark Odyssey Surrender the weekend before Halloween, and I loved it. I have a video coming out soon at some point. I don't know when exactly. Soon, that is going to be about a very specific experience I had at Dark Odyssey Surrender that I felt was like a really big learning, like teachable moment and taught me a lot about myself. And I love kink conventions for just everything. The social gathering, the class opportunities, the dungeons are amazing. Like, I have realized how much of a difference it makes for me personally to play in a dungeon versus playing at home. Like, I basically will like only do impact play in like a public environment. Like, there's something about the energy of like the music bumping and like people being around, like all of that combined together just gives me such a different experience of like impact play and pain stuff versus being at home. Like, bondage, sensory deprivation. I love doing that at home, and I love kind of the homey feeling of being like, you know, completely encased and ensconced in something. But at a convention, like, it's a different vibe. And I always have to mention this, and I will because we're in a live stream. Genuinely, every time I go to a convention, there is so much diversity in the kink community. All different people, all different shapes, sizes, age range. I see people that have, you know, eye patches and mobility aids, and seeing eye dogs and other forms of like medical alert dogs and other service animals, and I like all across, like the whole spectrum of humanity is present at kink conventions. I swear, like anyone like 18 to like 78, it is all different people are there. If you feel like I can't be part of the kink community because I'm a man and I'm too short, or I'm a woman and I'm too big, or I have this disability, or I'm deaf, or I have a mobility aid, or I have like certain spaces may not be accessible to you, right? Like, unfortunately, because of government regulations, a lot of public play spaces are relegated to being in, you know, older industrial areas of town where modifications to the buildings to allow it to be ADA compliant are like simply not possible because of the area that it's in. But with kink conventions that are at like hotels and expo centers, like you will see all different types of people there. I have seen people in wheelchairs be suspended. I have seen people that are blind, like dancing on like poles. I have seen anything and everything, okay? All different combinations. It happens, okay? It happens, and certainly there are still problems in the community with racism, sexism, ableism, all of that still happens. I'm not trying to whitewash it and say it's totally perfect. Like, every time there's a convention, I always hear, like, somewhere down the line, a story about, like, somebody being transphobic, or, like, somebody wearing a t-shirt that had a racist thing on it. Like, it happens. But I think as a community as a whole, we try very hard to root that stuff out, and we're very motivated to do that. So, not everything is perfect. It's not all like sunshine and rainbows and like all the isms no longer exist. But I think it's a space that I wish there was more of. That is for sure. All people are kinky, I think. It's just finding their kink. I have certainly heard that theory before. I guess it depends on how broadly you define kink. Like, I know people that are, like, certain they are vanilla, where they're like, I know what kink is, I've tried it, I'm fine, but it's just not for me. And certainly online, you will hear people that will have stories about, I was dating this girl, and she was super kinky, and she wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and I didn't really want to do it, but I tried it anyways, and I felt pressured, like, and then they just find out that I was really vanilla. I didn't want to do that. And it could just be that maybe they didn't like those kinks, but other kinks maybe would have been fine for them. I don't know. But it's something to keep in mind. Like, I think sometimes people are genuinely vanilla. Like, but maybe like having zero kink is kinky because if everyone else is kinky, it's kinky to not have a kink. We didn't think about that, did we? That is a possibility. That is for sure. Oh, fun stuff. How would you use horns in play? I don't know what this says about me, but the first thought I had was like if you were doing goat role play and you were headbutting each other while wearing horns. I don't actually recommend that. That was just my impulsive brain thought. I don't think that sounds like a really good way to take out an eye or like scratch up your forehead. But I feel like, depending on the shape of the horn, you could probably fit it in certain orifices. The mouth, perhaps, like a horn gag, deep throating a horn. I just listen, I don't know what you people get up to, but I know that you are freaky. And if it is shaped like it can go in a hole, it will go in a hole at some point. Somebody will try it. So I think it's possible. But horns, I'd probably, a more realistic answer is I would probably use horns for like sensation play. Like if you mean like actual, like if you had a goat horn and you could use it as a device, I think sensation play would probably be the way that people would use it, or like a more ceremonial spiritual thing if you have kink that's more informed by spiritual practice. But if you're wearing horns, I think it's probably more the roleplay flavor. Goat roleplay is pretty unique. Listen, cow roleplay, the stocks on cow roleplay are just going. They have been through the roof. We had like a 300% increase in cow stuff, I felt like. And like barn animals, they're having a moment. Okay, pigs, cows. I think goats are going to be there because goats, think about it, satanic, kind of freaky and cute at the same time, have horns, goblin mode, need I say more? Kind of an asshole, so bratty, right? Like, I feel like goats potentially could fit a really good niche in the pet play community for, like, kind of, bratty, sadistic, like, pet players, where they're, like, they want to, like, also loud. Also loud. I forgot the loud part. Like, if it's like, that you like I see your kitten play and I raise you goat role play is kind of what I'm thinking. But goats are cute. Like, I think a lot of people like goats. Personally, I have trouble with goats in real life because their eyes freak me out. Like the rectangular pupils, God didn't make that. God didn't, no. Rectangle pupils were not part of God's design. That was, goats did that on their damn own. So I I don't necessarily love the rectangle eyes, but like, I'm not gonna like be mean to a goat either. I'm just like, I don't know if I fully trust you. I don't know if I'm vibing with this. Baphomet, yes, I was gonna say that, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to go there. But yes, Baphomet and like Black Phillip like type stuff certainly would be fun for a lot of people to play with. I was thinking of a shofar also, but I was like, again, also maybe don't want to be specific for people, but certainly, because I'm not Jewish, doesn't really like my heritage, but, you know, if that's your thing, I'm sure that there are people that are conservative and even Orthodox Jews in the kink community. I've seen people that are, you know, wearing all different sorts of garb related to their religious beliefs at kink events, and you'd be surprised, like, it happens. It happens. Goats are goated, to be honest. It's true. God didn't make that, Lupine. Yeah, that's my new catchphrase now. Okay, I saw somebody ask this. Okay, wait. Okay, let's go back to answering questions in order. But I love all of the input. I love it. Thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts. I want to make sure we're going in order, though. Good question. You said my name in this YouTube parasocial relationship. Are we besties now? We are not besties, but I do appreciate your presence. I don't like... Could I have an internet bestie? Probably. It'd be hard, though. Roleplay, maybe. I don't know. People use horns themselves. Maybe like a scratchy sensation play. I think probably that, yeah. I've heard of some grabbing onto them like hair pulling. Oh! Like if you're wearing, I guess, but then like they're not really attached to your head though, are they? Tieflings are also a thing in D&D universes. I think I missed this question because it was too far ago in the chat, but I heard somebody ask me if I play tabletop RPGs. And the answer is I used to, but not for quite a long time. I have played Pathfinder and D&D, both 3.5 and 5e. I've not been in a D&D group for quite a while. I have had a lot of false starts with like Vampire the Masquerade and like a Star Trek one and with Cyberpunk. Just nothing's really come together, but you know, it'll happen. I have done it occasionally with like a group of kinky people, but trying to get kinky people to take time out of their weekend to do a tabletop RPG instead of doing fucked up sex things is like surprisingly difficult. Like they're like, let's... If you work a 9 to 5 and you're busy, like, excuse me. All right, I'm good. I think I'm good. Like it's hard to like, you're like, I have a Saturday. Like if I'm doing, you know, fucked up things on a Saturday and I want to sleep in on a Sunday, do I want to sleep in and recover from the party I went to? Or do I want to do like a tabletop RPG for like 5 hours? And like a lot of people are like, they'll agree to it, but then they're like, I don't want to do it this weekend. I'm busy. I gotta do yard work. And then they don't really actually want to do it. Why Jewish people usually don't really like it when non-Jewish people refer to as Jews. Did I say that? If I said Jews, I did not mean it that way. I'm sorry. I meant to say Jewish. That is a slip of the tongue if I said that accidentally. I endeavor not to be anti-Semitic in all the things that I do, but I also like did not grow up around Judaism whatsoever. So I have very much had to learn having a point of reference for that as an adult, but I try. Also do have some family members that are Jewish, but like they're not like, we don't have to get into that. ABO started in the early days of Slash fanfiction. Oh, really? But Monster King has arguably been around since people have. I think Omegaverse is a patchwork of pet play, teratophilia, and breeding kink. Oh, I hadn't thought about the breeding aspect of it. Is that like a big... I feel like when I watched Lindsay Ellis's video on ABO, which is really about a lawsuit around ABO, I don't remember that being a thing that people brought up, but like, I feel like that makes sense. Authors of ABO fics definitely grew up to know what bad dragons are. Just ask me how I know. Oh, I guess, I don't know. Maybe I have a misunderstanding of like who writes ABO fanfics. My impression is I thought ABO was mostly like older women. Like I thought it was mostly older straight women. Like, but also, okay, maybe in general, there's kind of, I talked about this the other night when I was live streaming, like, people reading Wattpad fan fiction. There's sort of like, there's like the OG group of people who do fan fiction, which is like, you're discovering sexuality, you're looking to explore theoretical, like, romantic or sexual or just like relationships in general of any kind. And you get into fan fiction when you're like 13, 14, 15, you know, somewhere around there. It's kind of like more like a late middle school, high school thing. And, you know, maybe as you get older, you stay with it. Maybe you grow out of it. But, like, sort of like a teenager subset of people who write fan fiction. And that's, like, one version of it. But there's, like, different fan fiction that tends to be older women, like E.L. James, right? And a lot of the people that are kind of like the famous ABO authors that went on to like actually publish stuff, they tend to be like older women. And I thought ABO in general was more of like an older women thing, and then it got adopted later on by people that were younger. But like maybe it's not. I don't know. That's not really like, it definitely could be something that you grow up into. I don't know. I do know people that they have gone through a bar mitzvah and then they've had a bat mitzvah after transition, which I feel like is a lovely thing to be able to do. Omegaverse is an interesting hybrid. I think that's probably, as a hybrid kink, that's a good way of explaining it. Also, Bandita is in full nap mode now. If you're wondering what full nap mode looks like, this is it. Oh, the nodding part. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I guess if the nodding... That feels weird even saying that out loud. Like the nodding part of ABO fiction, I do feel like, yeah, that's probably the breeding kink happening there, which a lot of people are into. A lot of people are into that. That's like, I don't know how popular it is, but it's more popular than you probably expect it is. Unless that's your kink, in which case you know exactly how popular it is. I find the Omegaverse so interesting because of the expansive and rigid social structure. I feel like someone could write a very interesting critique of our society through an ABO lens. I want to say Rowan Ellis has a video that's similar where she talks about ABO stuff. I don't know if she quite critiques our society from ABO, but certainly like the social structure of ABO is part of her video. Omegaverse is used in a lot of gay erotica. That is true. Didn't love the ending? Yeah, disappointing. But it seems like most people likely use it for getting off on I'm crap at writing fiction. Well, you know what? You get better if you try. Yep, the horny police are after me. It's true. I definitely have missed quite a few questions. So if I haven't gotten to your question yet, please repeat it because... there were too many things at the beginning. I rambled for too long and I missed a lot of the earlier questions. So please repeat yourself if you feel so inclined. Or ask a question for the first time. I don't care. I'm not gonna know. Ask it now. What do you think of kink as therapy or using it as a therapy tool? Sorry, I know this isn't the topic right now. No, go, like, we randomly switch topics all the time. That's totally fine. The masculine urge to be a little seahorse. Seahorse roleplay. That's going to be a thing too at some point, I am sure. Honestly, surprised it's not more of a thing. Like there's not more seahorse like personas or like seahorse like stuff, but I suppose it's maybe foreign enough to a lot of people to where it's not what most people would think of. Anyways, kink as therapy or using it as a therapy tool. Let's talk about that for a little bit. So my personal opinion, in my personal experience, is there are people who could really benefit from a mental health professional in their life in a non-kink capacity. And like there are certain aspects of the traditional therapeutic process and the therapeutic relationship that cannot be repeated in a kink one because of the moral and like personal boundaries that therapists are supposed to have with you as a client in terms of like giving you advice, physical touch, intimacy. Like the therapeutic relationship is supposed to be a very specific type of relationship. So if you are doing essentially therapy with your kink partner, that's going to make things very muddy and very messy. And it makes it harder to get to all the good stuff about therapy if that is what you're doing and you're like, you know, kind of overlapping those areas too much. This is part of the reason why having like an outside relationship with your therapist, like in terms of like being friendly and hanging out and being in the same social circle, like that's generally considered to be a no-no. However, I think that there are some things about kink that certainly can be helpful for people in a way that we, at least in the vernacular sense, refer to as being therapeutic. And that would be things like, you know, I was having a really bad week at work and I felt like garbage, and I used an impact placing with my partner to help process my garbage feelings, and now I feel better. Or I needed to escape from these bad feelings in my head, and so going into this scene helped me escape for a little bit, and then when I was done, I felt better and I felt more regulated. Like therapy can be, well, kink can be used as a tool for certain, I would say, distractive purposes, a release tool, a processing tool, in the same way that maybe like meditation can. Meditation also isn't therapy. So there are certain people that I'm sure incorporate meditation as a practice in their therapy, but like having, you know, doing tantric like meditation or whatever is not the same thing as therapy, but it can be helpful for a lot of people. That can be therapeutic. I think, and like it's hard because in America, right, we have, and I think around the world, you know, there are accessibility issues with therapy. There's never enough therapists available. The ones that are available aren't always ethical or well trained or understand kink or sexuality to the degree that they should. A lot of therapists, especially therapists that have been in practice for a very long time, like, you know, let's say you finally found a therapist that takes your insurance and has availability on your off hours from work and, you know, all this stuff, right? Okay, well, maybe they're 70 years old, or not even that old, maybe they're 55 years old, and they've been practicing for 35 years, and, you know, they keep up with their professional requirements, but they're maybe not fully up to speed with, like, being trauma informed or being aware of, like, red flags for abuse, or, like, they don't agree with like modern diagnostic criteria, or like whatever it happens to be, right? Or like their information about areas they typically wouldn't get training on, like sexuality, orientation, gender identity, that's not up to date. You might be dealing with a therapist where you only have the option of this one therapist who's like not really a great fit for a lot of your own personal life stuff. And so kink can kind of be a way to supplement that in terms of like validation and recognition and coping with feelings. But unfortunately there are a lot of therapists that don't really get kink or human sexuality in like a broad way, to be honest. And I get why, with that barrier in place in terms of cost, availability, how good the therapy actually is when you do get it, that people would turn to kink as this piecemeal thing to do to like feel better day to day. In the same way that people like get really into other hobbies or into physical fitness or competitive martial arts or building trains or whatever it is. People do that with lots of other things in their life, and the degree to which you kind of engage in that as like a therapeutic thing, I think is important to monitor and recognize. Like if you know that you were trying to use kink to like process like trauma from when you were a kid, that's kind of a big thing to ask your partner to hold space for, especially if they have their own trauma, they're not somebody who has training on how to deal with that with another person. Like it's a lot to hold on to. It might be kind of the only option you really have, and it's something you want to use, but you have to be aware of how much you're using it and to what extent you're putting it on to the people, because that's the big thing, right? Is I think this conversation does not really necessarily make room for dominance and tops and what it's like for them to be in the position of being a therapist or a quasi-therapist to a partner. Because it's a big burden when you are a therapist to maintain those boundaries, to be able to help people, to feel like you are making a difference in this person's life. But then when that's also your romantic partner or your friend, on top of you like trying to help them therapeutically or help them process kink or hold space for their trauma or deal with things. You just described my current therapist. I am very sorry, other Evie, that is your experience with the current therapist. It is garbage. I know so many people where like that's the story, right? They're on a waiting list for months. They finally find a person, and this person is just like not very good, right? Or maybe they're good at certain things. Like maybe they're really good at like helping you with like job stress, but maybe they don't really get your personal relationships or your sexual orientation or your gender identity. And like, is it really like if they don't get all of you, if they want to like suggest like, oh, like they have certain maybe beliefs about kink, right? That it's like, I've certainly heard stories from people, and certainly probably people in this chat will be able to confirm this, of therapists where like you go into therapy and you have a specific issue, like you have like bipolar or borderline or OCD or whatever, and you go in and you want help with coping with that, or to like whatever it is you want to do, whatever your goal is, and then they start getting into your relationships, your interests, and like who you are, and you mention kink, and suddenly they treat kink as like the issue that's at the origin of all of this, right? Like the kink is a thing that's worth like rooting at and investigating. That's like, I just really wanted help navigating my manic episodes. Like kink is kind of secondary to like the stuff that happens when I'm in mania, doc. Like, can you help me out here a little bit? So like it can really be frustrating. So I get why it's tempting, but I think even if you have limited options for actual therapy, I think leaning too hard on kink is just going to make that house of cards collapse as well. Mine is all CBT all the time, but it's like not the fun kinds. Yeah, like CBT I do not love. There is like trauma-informed CBT these days. I certainly know a lot of people that will say they experience CBT therapy as gaslighting, and it can be used in a gaslighty way because a lot of it is like cognitive reframing. And like I personally prefer DBT because I think it takes kind of the good elements of CBT, but it's also like personally empowering for like you to understand that, and not like a therapist or a doctor being like, but have you tried being happy? Like, have you tried just enjoying this thing? And it's like, sometimes it's just like, shut the hell up. You know what I mean? What tips do you have for being an assistant? I love that. Or co-topping. I helped at an electro station at my last event and would love some input if this isn't in the FAQ. It is definitely not in the FAQ. But let me think about that for a second. I kind of want to wrap up this thought about therapy and kink because it's kind of a big one. But no way, that happened to me today in therapy. Well, actually, pornography, but definitely happened there. Yeah. CBT did more harm than good for me. I like DBT. Also, EMDR is great for PTSD. I know a lot of people have had a lot of success with EMDR. I am personally a little bit skeptical with EMDR. For me, my understanding of the literature on it, I don't think it's quite as evidence-based as some of the other modalities that I feel more comfortable using are. But like honestly, like if it fucking works for you, who gives a shit? Like it's your money, it's your time. If you feel like it genuinely helps you and like it helps you outside of therapy, who's to judge, right? Like fine. Like it's not gonna hurt you, I don't think. So okay, like I personally don't have, like, I feel like it's kind of silly when people like, if you'd say like, I like this one kind of therapy modality because it helps me, I feel like it's kind of shitty to be like, well, but did you know the literature says it doesn't do anything? And it's like, it's so subjective. Like, just because, like, it doesn't, like, if there's not, like, solid scientific evidence for, like, this one therapy modality being really good yet, I don't feel like the solution to that problem is, like, telling somebody they're wrong for finding a therapy modality helpful. Like, I'm kind of saying this as a general note for people listening. You know, for anyone who's curious, like, my understanding is maybe it's worth looking into the literature on it. I'm not necessarily sure how evidence-based it currently is. If you're, like, in the process of, like, choosing a therapy modality to pursue, but certainly if it helps you currently in the present day, like, I'm not in your fucking brain. Like, you know, you best. I had a massive panic attack when I tried EMDR. Yeah, I think for certain people, the EMDR isn't always helpful. And, like, there's a lot of reasons for why that is. But also, some people really love it. So, like, you know, I just think having more options on the table is generally good. Like, basically, like, if you are doing, like, past life regression hypnotherapy, I'm probably going to be judgmental towards the therapist who is still practicing that. But as long as you're not doing that, I'm probably fine. I'm probably fine. Like, it's probably whatever. Anyways, let's get into the co-topping question. A very good question. Advice for co-topping. The thing I normally go back to with co-topping is this idea that you need to be a unified front. Like, the worst thing that can happen, like, the communication between bottom and top in a scene is really important because you want to know what your role expectation is. But at the same time, I think it's more difficult to navigate both being tops together because you kind of have to, like, divvy up responsibility and, like, whose area is what. Like, you kind of gotta treat it like you're working in a kitchen together. Like, it's one thing if, like, you're a chef and you're cooking in, like, a private kitchen for one person, and it's like, this person's like, I want to have carrot soup, and you're like, great, I can make carrot soup. Do you want it spicy or not? No, I don't want it spicy. You can have kind of that back and forth, but at the end of the day, they're not in the kitchen making the carrot soup with you. They are receiving the carrot soup that you're making for them. Whereas when you're sharing a kitchen, you have to be in agreement that you're making carrot soup, what carrots you're using, how many, who's cutting them up, how many spices you're using, if you're making any side dishes, who's doing the dishes afterwards, when are you doing the dishes, is it during the process, is it totally after? Like, gotta work out all those pieces together. So definitely make sure you are 1,000% on the same page with your co-top over who is doing what, because it's very awkward in the moment if you're stepping on toes, because it's like, well, but I thought that you were doing this role and I was doing this role, but I actually really want to do this. So just make sure you understand those expectations up front and communicate them, and probably have some kind of way to communicate in scene top to top that is not going to disrupt the headspace of the bottom that you are topping. That would be probably my big main takeaway for co-topping stuff. And then I guess don't get too caught up in, like, reading into the submissives or the bottoms body language about, like, who you think they prefer. I think the number one thing that I've seen after miscommunication about, like, who's doing what and kind of, like, the flow of all of it, the thing that I see that makes co-topping go wrong is, like, feelings. And, like, it's oftentimes the tops feeling, like, dejected and put out because they feel like the bottom or the submissive clearly very prefers one top over the other. And I'm not necessarily sure, like, if that's something you can adjudicate, like, accurately. Like, you don't really know. Like, you could be watching and go, wow, it really seems like they wiggle their butt more when this other person is topping them and they don't do that for me. And, like, that could be a positive or a negative thing. Like, you don't really know. Or maybe they are doing it more with that other person because they think that they want that communication, but you don't. Or they know that person more, so they're more comfortable doing it with them, but not with you. Like, there are so many different reasons. Like, I don't read into it in the moment. Don't beat yourself up about it. Like, I think a lot of people stop themselves from co-topping because, like, is the goal of the scene for you to be the favorite number one best person top that's the most favorite and most special? Or do you want to give your partner or your play partner a good scene? Like, a little bit, like, to be slightly harsh, it's a little bit check your ego. Like, if it's I keep forgetting I don't have my water here with me, and it's messing me up. Chai tea, by the way. That's not chai. Chai latte. Chai and tea are the same thing. It's a chai latte. Homemade chai latte. Good stuff. Like, you got to check your ego a little bit. And if you do want to have a scene where the purpose of the co-topping is to make you feel special, you got to communicate that. That's fine. I think you can have it as a goal, but you got to make sure everyone's on the same page. Because there's, like, doing it for that. But I think by default, the assumption should be that you are doing it because you want to give your partner as the bottom or the submissive a good scene experience, and you being preoccupied with, like, being the favorite as the top is going to get in the way of that. So focus on what will give the bottom or the submissive the best scene experience. And like it's okay if you have feelings about it. Like, if you notice in the scene, I'm playing with this person and they seem to not, like, be liking me as much, like, you can check in, you can talk about it later. Like, I'm not saying to not have feelings about it, but if you're caught up in that and that's what you're focusing on, like, you're setting yourself up for failure. Absolutely. I mean, I don't really know if that's the best form of therapy, but I certainly know people that enjoy face slapping, and there may or may not be a video coming up soon where I mention face slapping as an edgy kink. So look out for that. Yeah, it's just TT, exactly. I know. Everyone, I know. As soon as I said it, I'm like, oh no, people are gonna get on me. They're gonna make fun of me. But yeah, anyways, let's get on to another question. That was a great one. Let's see, therapy as a tool. There's still often penises involved in lesbian OBO fics. You have to search very specifically to avoid them in any Omegaverse fic. Yeah, I mean, I guess when I say lesbian Omegaverse fic and avoiding penises, I mean avoiding the male, like the male penis. Like, it's different. It's different when it's a lesbian penis. I don't know. Make that make sense to my asexual brain. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, just how it is. Question mentioned earlier. Not sure if it was missed. What tips do you have on being? Oh, no. Okay, I answered this one. Too. Oh, yeah, definitely go help with that. Absolutely. Okay, let's see. Scrolling. An interesting experience, as it was my first con with my guide dog. It was interesting to configure where she would be and where she could hang out at night when I did the scenes we planned. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Because there's not necessarily, depending on how the space is set up, there may not be a good place for, like, a guide dog to go to be, like, out of the way. My art teacher had us use DeviantArt for posting projects. She only did it for one semester. I mean, lesson learned, I suppose, right? Lesson learned. I just joined. Are we talking about Sonic in here? I love Sonic. Briefly, not really the theme of the stream, but if you have a story you want to share about Sonic and Kink, feel free. Any advice for a Dom having more than one sub? They are having problems, and how can I not be in the middle as his other sub is my Dom also? Oh, okay. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, you are a Dom having more than one sub. Okay. Okay. So you have a dominant that has two submissives. Submissive A, alpha submissive, and then you, submissive B. But their alpha submissive is also your dom. So you have two doms, and your dom has two subs. It's like a little triangle type. I don't know if it's a triangle, but, like, you know, it's like, there's some overlap there in terms of roles. I get that. They are having problems, and how can I be in the middle? It is hard to not be in the middle in a scenario like that. How I would handle that from a polyamorous perspective is I would probably say, you have to set boundaries. Even if they're your dom, even if they're, you're submissive to them or whatever. Like, as people, one-to-one, I think you have to be able to tell them, hey, I really like the both of you. I like our relationships independently. Because I'm so involved, I don't want to be put in the middle. If you guys can refrain from it, I would appreciate whatever the problem is, right? Like, maybe don't argue around me, don't badmouth each other, to me or in my earshot. Don't ask me to pick sides during a fight. Whatever is going on, set up boundaries and try your very best to stick to them. It is difficult because people will want to make you pick sides, but if you are the hinge partner in a triad, which is essentially what you are, it is very important to not be the adjudicator of the other two people that are in relationship with you fighting. That's not fair to you. That is not healthy to your relationship dynamics with them individually as people, and they need to have an independent sounding board if they need one with friends, family, therapists, maybe, if they have the ability to do that. But yeah, you being stuck in the middle is not fair to you. And this isn't to say you can't ever be a sounding board or can't give your advice or hear them out. You can do that, but there should be limits. And if you're uncomfortable with it, that should be something that is respected and communicated about. And as I said, you should be able to set boundaries around it. So that is mostly what I would do. And if they're not, this is kind of the big test, right? If they're fighting, if they're involving you, if you feel stuck in the middle, and then you say, hey, please don't make me do this, and then the behavior continues, or they fight you about it and go, well, but you should be there to support us, and it's not fair for you're gonna pick one of us over the other one, and yada yada. If it gets dragged down into argument territory hardcore, that is a red flag. And at some point it becomes too high of a price mentally, and I recommend withdrawing from the relationship, or maybe not even necessarily breaking up, but putting things on pause, right? Maybe the DS part of the relationship or what have you, just stepping back a little bit until you can have some emotional distance, because it's very hard to have a healthy DS dynamic where there's that level of not he said, she said necessarily, but help us adjudicate our fights, please. I'm doing okay, thank you, and glad you could make it again. Thanks for being here. The local guy in my town that's a predator and thinks he knows everything in the book about shibari. Okay. Any advice on what to do? I know it's someone that's in the same boat about using us. Okay, so I'm kind of skipping ahead because I feel like this is an important question. Why does everyone just feel like they're fucking expert about shibari? I just kind of feel like I want to tell everyone to shut up. It's someone that's in the same boat about using us. How I would probably handle that if this was someone in my local community. I mean, generally my technique has been do they teach at a specific venue or go to certain play parties? If they do that, I will not go to those parties. I will simply not involve myself with them. If I feel like it's warranted, I will maybe communicate with the event that, hey, my understanding is that so-and-so is predatory. I do not feel safe going to your events as a result. Give them the opportunity and the push to maybe look into the allegations against them. Give them the opportunity to make things right, start an accountability process, whatever that looks like. But you can't give them the leeway to hide behind the excuse of but we didn't know. Nobody told us they were a problem. They were always great at our events, and so how would we ever know? And would you feel safe going to a venue if you knew that the people who ran the event or organized the events or owned the space were comfortable having known predators go there and cover up for them and make excuses for them? I wouldn't, because to me that means if shit goes sideways and I'm doing something in public, they're not going to have my back. They're not going to care what my side of the story is. They're going to defend predators and protect predators, and I don't want to be around that. So I would probably not participate in those spaces if it was up to me and I had that choice. But also, like, you know, you can mitigate that to a certain extent.
Morgan Fi donated $20. Thank for your vids. My
sorry.
dome just got to see me really lose it for the first time. It wasn't insane, but I was driving through fog on the freeway at the end of a 18-hour road trip. A bit embarrassing, but oddly good in that they saw it.
Thank you for your vids. My dom just got to see me really lose it for the first time. I wasn't insane, but was driving through fog on the freeway at the end of an 18-hour road trip. Ooh, God, that would do it to anybody. A bit embarrassing, but oddly good that they saw it first I've seen. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that's good for them to have that knowledge. And like 18-hour road trip, that is like, I couldn't do that. So I think that's a very understandable scenario to like have difficulty, and like hopefully they're supportive and hopefully you got some support. But like, that's, yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I hate that Shibari experts and I hate Shibari fans that think less of any bondage on Shibari. Me too. Like, I feel like I had maybe a little bit of that phase at some point, but honestly, it is kind of like bondage in general. But like, some people are like, everything has to be traditional shibari, and it's like just exhausting, you know? It's just like, come on, like, this shit was like AstroTurf invented like less than 100 years ago. Like, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? It's not that deep. Like, it's not some people frame it like it's this ancient, uncomprehensible ancient art from the east, and it's like just get over yourselves, honestly. Just like get over yourselves. Like, it's not that it's not cool or interesting. It's also just like, you're a white man from Oklahoma. Like, you're not a shibari expert. Like, you just calm yourself. You know what I mean? I would not feel safe. I would also want nothing to do with these people. Yeah, if they're gonna harbor people that are bad actors, like, I just wouldn't go to that space, to be honest. Like, and you know, it sucks, but you gotta, you know, quote unquote, vote with your wallet, right? Like, if you don't feel safe somewhere, don't give a place money. And they'll, you know, if enough people get wind of that, it'll eventually make enough of an impact. And hopefully they operate a space that they care enough about that to do something about it if enough people say something. But like there are no shortage of shoddily ran events that do not care. That people that patronize their spaces have been accused of events. And certainly when it comes to conventions, I have been to conventions where I have seen people that I know are banned from local events. But a lot of conventions have a policy where they won't ban somebody from buying a ticket to an event if they are banned in a local community outside of the convention space, simply because they cannot verify like the allegations. And because the events are so much larger, like thousands of people, if every single person, you know, like eventually it's sort of like, here's the, just to maybe grant some understanding for people that don't organize events, especially when you're running a really big event that maybe could have like 2,000 people at it, you are running into an issue where if it gets out that like, oh, if you just email an event organizer and say that so-and-so abused you, they'll ban that person from ever buying a ticket or being able to go to that event. That then becomes a tool for abusers to use against their victims. If an abuser wants to isolate you from community support and education, really great way to do that is to send an anonymous email saying, you know, I heard so-and-so is abusive and they did this and that, and just make up a story like out of whole cloth. And if an event organizer rolls with that and doesn't do any kind of investigation process, like, great, suddenly you now have another Darvo tool. You know, now you have a tool that somebody can use to manipulate and weaponize against somebody in the community that like could actually be a victim of abuse and toxic relationships. And consent violations themselves. Like, I have certainly heard of that happening before. It wouldn't be the first time. So that is the balancing act for sure. Shibari fetishism is Orientalism, and that's ick. That is the ick. That is one of my icks in the community. I will say that for sure. I'm in Japan, but a ton of DOMs claim to be experts in Shibari. They usually do that and specialize in something else, or like, like orgasm control. I was like, or star as a what the. I need to get it together. Control to make themselves seem special. Japan is not dissimilar to the other countries I have done kink in that regard. Many people kind of try to inorganically become the guy who's known as the thing to make themselves special and stand out. Like, I'm going to say I'm the Shibari expert, but I'm going to do it with rainbow rope to stick out. Or I'm going to do it with this special, kind of rope material that nobody else uses. And they're going to ignore the fact that, the reason why people don't use sisal for suspension is because it has a load-bearing capacity of 50 pounds. I don't really know how much it is, but let's say that's what it is for argument's sake. They kind of do things outside of the box just to seem different and special. And it's like, what if you just tried to be yourself? What if we just didn't do things inorganically? You know what I mean? Is it a thing for dungeons to have mandatory nudity? I actually haven't been to that many, and someone I know in Discord said that was the norm. This is very localized. I have never been to a public dungeon where the norm default, every party, every event is nudity required. There is one event I know of that is ran by a person who does Shibari and photography, wouldn't you know it, that I saw on their profile, because doesn't matter. I saw their profile, and they were advertising events on there that they host, and in the description, they were talking about how, they very, very highly encourage nudity at their events to allow for the necessary skin-to-skin connection. That's the whole, special sauce of Shibari, or something to that effect, right? They didn't necessarily strictly require it, but there was certainly a lot of social pressure, and at least you had to go down to undies or something like that. It was uncomfortable because it was a newbie event. It was catered for, newbies welcome, and it's just I just don't like that connection in kink generally, that nudity is required. Now, if you are going to a very specialized private event with high protocol, or something like clothed female nude male, which is a common thing for femdom events, I think that is more justifiable because the nudity is part of the flavor and expectation of the event, which is very different than if you want to do anything at this dungeon, which is a general public event that theoretically should be open to tons of different types of play. That I am not comfortable with. But a private event that's part of this experience we are trying to cultivate is the fantasy of clothed female nude male. That makes sense to me to be nudity required for male submissives, because that's the whole point of the event that you opt into by going to the event. But to have it be a requirement at a dungeon just point blank, I have not experienced anywhere that I've been or anywhere that I've lived, which is not an insignificant number of dungeons at this point in time. I actually don't even know if you would legally be able to compel that. In terms of legally requiring nudity, or not legally, but requiring nudity in an event space, I feel that's kind of getting closer to towing the line of could the police see this as a brothel? They might be more likely to think of it that way if it's going down that path, Any pressure to do nudity is very sus, most likely ran by creeps. Yes. And even in scenarios where it's it's for like a high protocol dinner, like outdoors on a covered patio or whatever. Like that, I would vet heavily before you go. I would never go to an event of any kind, even a very specialized one, that required nudity unless it was very public and I knew the people that, like, I had familiarity with the event or I had familiarity with the people who were running it. I would not just go willy-nilly first time into an event that was completely, like, no clothing allowed. Like, that just seems weird to me. Sounds like in some cases that might be the case, but it is not like most events at most dungeons. And he was, in fact, full of crap. The guy is sus in general, so this is just validating answer. Yes, especially if it's somebody being like, whoa, you know, at dungeons you are required to be nude. You know, that is, that certainly seems like they are they expect that you will not do your research and are trying to push you towards having certain assumptions by default. Yeah, that's not great. Oh my gosh, time flies. It is already almost 7:30. Yes, we're talking about Sonic. Oh, sweet summer child, they done your blue hedgehog so dirty over the years. That is for sure part of it. That is for sure. I've heard of this Dark Odyssey before, and it sounds like an informative experience. Would you recommend someone starting their journey into kink and BDSM attend? So Dark Odyssey, and depending where you live, it's in America. There's a few events on the East Coast, one on the West Coast called Surrender. They happen at different times of year. They are kink conventions. They have classes during the day, parties at night, very fun. Dark Odyssey, I think, is on the more accessible side for newer people, especially the hotel conventions. They have a camping convention that I think would probably be pretty overwhelming for a new person to go to. But I think especially because I know with the types of educational things they select, like, you know, intro to anal, intro to cunnilingus, like there's a lot of very intro level classes for more basic information at these events. And the dungeons don't really have anything happening that's like super crazy at them. Like, I didn't see any like super wild scenes that I remember at like Dark Odyssey this year. There was very, very occasional like medical play, blood play, but not anything that I think a new person like couldn't process. And like there's 2 different dungeon spaces, so you kind of get to pick your vibe. Like, yeah, I think Dark Odyssey, especially if you're local, like if you are in the California area, if you're from California, especially around the Bay, and it's not a huge travel expense for you to go, and you can volunteer and offset the cost of the ticket, like I think it is very much worth it, but it can be overwhelming. They do offer sometimes, not always, they will offer a play party pass for just evening parties, or more commonly, just I'm talking broadly about all different events here, like with ticketing options. Usually the default standard ticket is everything all together. Some places will occasionally offer a play party ticket where you're not paying for the events and the vendors and everything else during the daytime. I really recommend going to the daytime portion because of like social opportunities, other programming outside of classes and outside of play stuff, but some people don't really want that or don't feel like they need that, or like it's not just part of their kink experience. However, other places also offer a daytime only pass where it's not parties, but it is all of the socials, meetups, mixers, the vendor hall, the Q&As, the panels, the classes, all of that stuff. And I think as a new person, if you had to pick between, oh, really? Camera temperature? Okay. It seems like it's pretty cool in here. All right. Give me a second. I gotta cool down my camera. Hot, exciting things happening on the broadcast. Okay. All right. Now listen to the sound of my disembodied voice for the next, I'm going to say 30 seconds. Usually it doesn't take it too long to cool down. But in the meantime, I will look for other questions. For some reason, I feel like the milk fic would go hand in hand with MPreg and or ABO. What is milk fic? What is that a thing? What is... I don't... Do I want to know what milk fic is? That sounds sussy. Yeah, sounds a little sussy-wussy. What about non-binaries, though? It seems like it would be a little difficult to find a partner as not everyone is into that. I'm not sure what that is in reference to. I feel like this is my experience. I have a lot of play partners that people perceive as being a binary gender. Almost none of my partners in the kink community, play partners, romantic partners, etc., that I've had in the kink community are actually binary people, like binary cis people. Like non-binary folk are a huge part of the kink community, absolutely. However, you have to, like, the expectations of what you think a non-binary person might present as, you know, you can't make assumptions in the kink community, and I'm not in a lot of other social spaces, but from my interactions in the everyday world versus the kink community, certainly I know lots of people that are non-binary in the kink scene. Did they suspend them and the wheelchair? Yes. The wheelchair suspension, the ones I have seen, both of them involved the person in the wheelchair being suspended alongside in their wheelchair. Yes. That's how it worked. And at both times, they were non-motorized wheelchairs. Just if that's important information for you, for some reason. As far as I know, both the people that were being suspended were people that were wheelchair bound and wanted to experience suspension and therefore had to be in the wheelchair as part of their suspension. It was not like a role play thing of like, let's pretend that you're disabled and then you get, like, it was not anything like that. Do people do that? I am sure somewhere, but not to my knowledge. That has not happened that has not been part of the equation. It has been people that wanted to experience suspension that happen to also be wheelchair bound and in the kink community, because that is very much a thing that happens. I will not be Googling the milk fic. I have been warned. Okay, let me see if we can get this to work. All right, we're back. Hi everyone, welcome. Unexpected overheating happened. Okay, all right. No worries, not spam. Go ahead. The amount of fascist costumes in kink spaces does give me the ick. I gotta be honest, I've never... Unless we're counting cops as fascist, and we're counting police, like sexy police roleplay outfits as being fascist costumes, which an argument can certainly be made. I have not personally seen anyone, at least in real life, I have never seen anyone show up to a kink event or a convention or anything with anything that approaches that. The closest I have seen to that would be like Star Wars stuff. Or, like police shit, like I said. That's basically it. But, like, not to say it doesn't happen. I haven't witnessed that. So, like, if your information is coming from internet, the pictures, I would wager that does not always necessarily represent the average the kink community. But if it's something you're seeing in your local scene, like, I'm not going to say that doesn't happen. I've never seen anything that looks, I'm not going to say because I don't know if YouTube is happy with that, but I will say I've never seen anything that looks like a uniform from a fascist country in a public kink scene. Military boots, I don't think. Like, you have to remember, if you're just like military shit is fascist, which, again, arguments can be made, a lot of the formation of the early kink community in America was based around gay men's leather culture, which in turn is very much informed by those gay men having been part of the military and military surplus equipment like military boots, like leathers, like motorcycles. And so there is a certain amount of iconography around things like military boots and gloves and an officer's hat, in different forms depending on what side of the pond you are on. Obviously the UK is different than the US in regards to what kind of costuming elements you might see, but military style lace-up boots by themselves, like quote-unquote combat boots, also could be just work boots, right? Like steel-toed work boots, very popular, great way to get a quality, actual, real leather type of boot. Oh, that can be read as fascist? Yeah. I think in the gay men's scene, it's probably more of a thing than where I live or the scenes I'm more of a part of. But I haven't noticed that where I live. So I can only really speak to my own experience with that. I can't imagine why in certain scenes it might be more common than in others. Absolutely, I can see that. Combat boots are a huge element of lesbian fashion. The more you know. As a queer MB that just had top surgery 3 months ago, my local dungeon has been a very safe place. I am so happy to hear that, Morgan. That is awesome. I know a lot of people, it can vary a little bit across the board. So I'm happy for you that that's been a safe place. That's awesome. Definitely a lot of people I know with different varieties of top surgery in. Actually, I would love, what I really need to see that I have not seen or not seen very often is I would love to see impact play classes that specifically talk about surgeries and things like that, right? There is already some existing controversy about playing on chest tissue, and maybe does that lead to an increased cancer risk, right? In general with impact play on chest tissue or on breast tissue if you prefer. And I have not seen anyone address that in relation to what about implants? What about top surgery? What about what about if you get breast reconstruction, or what if you get a breast lift or a breast reduction? That, I think all of that would be something I'd really like to see, because I think by default a lot of the information tends to be from people that because I don't play with people that I don't really play that area of the body at all, so I don't really have any experience with that personally myself to draw from, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't theorize based on my knowledge of scar tissue and recovery times. I don't have that background information to extrapolate from to be this is how you can do this in a safer way or at all. And I would love that information. That would be very, very helpful for people. Also, goat roleplay sounds fun. Maybe concussion's not good, but just saying, yeah, wear helmets. Put on some really heavy-duty helmets and then put the horns on top of the helmet. That'd be my goal. That would be my recommendation there. Vanilla is the new kink. Yes. I work at a zoo and I'm working with the goats tomorrow. Hopefully this won't make me think weird stuff. I will, I mean, it's fun. That's cool you work in a zoo, but I'll try not to make it worse. Emergency room. Accidentally fell on a horn? Not too convincing. Yeah, no one's going to believe that. Or, I mean, honestly, they might. They've been like, that's not even the weirdest thing we've seen today. They'd probably just go with it. When stocks go up, it's called a bull market, which fits for cow roleplay stocks going up. True. I realized I could have just said that. Just called it a bull market. And that would have been a deeper pun. Petition for more bull pet players? Absolutely. I feel like you don't really hear people say the word bull a lot, because I think it's really associated with especially more racist forms of cuckoldry and some things that maybe the polite BDSM community finds it to be a little bit more unsavory and like not something we really want to encourage. But I think that having that maybe as an alternative, maybe use of the word bull, I think would generally be positive. I know the Pupperino is very adorable, as she always is. Talking about vampires, do you think vampires have bad breath? I remember somebody leaving that question, it may have been you, on the video I did about, like, it was either the Monster Kinks or one of the one before that, the Fear Play one. And my instinctual response as a joke is to say, they don't because they can't eat garlic, and so they don't have bad garlic breath. But if you're drinking blood, would that make, I feel like that probably would make your breath bad, but then also I feel like anything that's like really high in protein and meaty, to me, I think gives you really bad breath. But do vampires brush their teeth is ultimately really the question we need to have an answer to solve the answer to that secondary question about them having bad breath. I feel like they wouldn't because they're undead, and so I feel like they probably wouldn't have any bacterial colonies in their mouth. Maybe that doesn't make sense. I don't know. I feel like I could just say that makes sense, and then it would be true. I found the Canadian in the chat. They associate bull with moose. Canadian alert. Maybe vampires just need a breath mint afterwards. I feel like, yeah, if they just had a Listerine strip, they'd probably be fine. Loud play at home is best after you buy some soundproofing products for the room. It would be extremely uncomfortable for your helpful and concerned neighbors. Yeah, that is true. I do not recommend playing loudly in public, or sorry, in your home if you have close by neighbors, or like, you know, you're a tenant in an apartment building or something. Why would I get fake beaten up with 5 when I can get real beaten up with a paddle? I don't know what that's a reference to. Like fingers? I don't know what that means. Coordinating even a vanilla campaign is hard enough. True. I feel like as adults, we lose our sense of play from childhood. So why not spare a Saturday and play a tabletop game just for the fun of it? Let's have fun as adults. I agree with you. I think, and I have trouble making time for fun. Like I'm guilty of this very much so. But I agree with the premise of like, you know, it's important to make time for recreation. It helps you reset. That's the whole purpose of a weekend. Like just working through your entire weekend with like household stuff and yard stuff and like other like work things that require labor as opposed to fun and recreation, like it's gonna eat away at you at some point. Absolutely. They would probably smell slightly of decay at minimum. That is probably true. A ton of vampire lore has vampires with really, really bad breath. Oh! I didn't know that. They didn't mention that in Twilight. Or True Blood. I don't know. I'm not really into like traditional vampire lore. Vampires are not really my thing personally. BDSM is just Simon Says for adults. I mean, can't argue with that. Can't argue with that. That's true. ABO started as a gay men thing, right? I feel like I heard that somewhere. I thought it was one of those things where like ABO, maybe if it started with gay men, it was very small, but then it blew up because like older straight women decided to really like it. But I'm not sure if do we actually know that? I'm not sure we actually know that or not. Do you play vampire roleplay? Like personally me? Not really. Like, I'm into the idea of it. Like, I'm not opposed to that as, like, a thing. I just don't know anyone that I would play with that, like, is into vampire roleplay in turn. Like, I tend to play with people that are much more into, like, how do I describe this as a general thing? As like non-specifically as possible. More into creatures with fur as a broad category. Furry, more furry creatures, more forest dwelling creatures than vampires. Not really into the vampire thing over much. What is the roles of betas in the Omegaverse? My understanding of betas in the Omegaverse is to be the NPCs. Or to be like the creatures that the Omega hides amongst, right? Like a big theme in a lot of Omegaverse fanfiction, from what I understand, or just Omegaverse fic in general, because it's not always fanfiction. A lot of Omegaverse fic is like the Omegas have this special allure that the alphas could not resist. And so the betas have to take some kind of like medication or use a spell or a potion to suppress their hormones and their pheromones to be more like betas. And so betas are kind of like the masses, the special Omegas hide amongst, is my general understanding. But I am sure that varies, and that is not the sole thing. Any tips for playing with a trusted third as part of a largely mono couple? My good ex-girlfriend will be topping my girlfriend this week, and I'll be in a supportive role. Scene has been fully negotiated. I mean, if the scene's already been fully negotiated, I feel like you almost have to be like a nurse, but like a nurse in like the 50s. Like you have to be like a nurse in the 50s where like the only thing you do is whatever the doctor tells you to do, whatever the top tells you to do. So the doctor says, get me a towel, go get water, go to like, you got to be the fetch errand boy, basically, I think at that point, if the scene's already been fully negotiated. Now, assuming that, of course, involves everyone in, participating, knowing that you will be potentially involved. However, maybe you're referring to the fact that this one scene could refer to future scenes in which you may end up being more involved. And then if you're part of the negotiation, you could help with aftercare maybe. That could be something that you do. I think that's a really important role. Helping with like the mood, the music, getting water, that kind of thing. I think that's probably where I would stay in my lane, because if the scene's already been fully negotiated, you gotta stay on the periphery as far as those other elements are concerned. What inspires your makeup for your videos? I love your color combos and your eyeshadow. Something I haven't done, usually it's some combination of what shirt do I want to wear, color combos I haven't done or haven't tried before, something I haven't done recently, sometimes something I've seen in somebody else's video will inspire me. I don't really watch a lot of makeup content these days, but like occasionally I'll see something, and something that fits like the mood or season I'm in. So like, if it's Halloween, more like green, purple, orange. If it's Christmas time, more red and green, blue, silver, gold. If it's springtime, more pastels or neons. If it's summertime, if it's fall, more, burgundies, darker colors, blacks, grays, things like that. So that tends to be what inspires makeup for my videos. Or if I've gotten new makeup, which does not happen very often, but sometimes if I get new makeup colors or new eyeshadows, I will be like, oh, I want to play with this. I want to try this. And I did recently get a lot of more like foil eyeshadows that I'm kind of interested in playing around with. And I have some ideas. I think I had an idea in my head earlier of like a color combo that I haven't done that would be fun. I think I'm going to do like maybe like a dark navy blue and like a deep purple, but I feel like I don't have a deep navy. Well, the deep purple I think I have more of a struggle with finding a good version for. Thoughts on vampires? I haven't seen your new video yet, but I'm just curious. Vampires are interesting. I think that vampire roleplay is very fun and it's unique, and it offers a really novel roleplay context for a lot of edgier play. I think you can also play it softer. I think there's so much different lore and media with vampires to draw from. You can really get into it as a top and a bottom from a roleplay perspective because it is so common and is so well known. Like if it's, True Blood, Vampire Diaries, Twilight, Dracula, Nosferatu, like there's so much, or like Interview with a Vampire, so much different stuff to draw from for roleplay designs, but I think vampires are cool. Yeah. I have a video from the year before last where I talked more about vampires and vampire roleplay over Halloween, and I think that would be more what I would use as a reference for like specifically stuff about vampires and vampire roleplay. I personally find kink therapeutic, but therapy/counseling and consultation with your doctor as well is super important to be able to be safe and give consistent consent or active consent. Yes, all very true. My therapist being my top is horrifying to me. Yikes. No, I'm with you on that. That would be not something I would recommend. I will say that. My hypnotherapy certification has informed my hypno-kink play heavily. I aim to be trauma-informed in my kink, even though I try hard not to do over-therapy. Yeah, I think for people I know that top hypnotherapy or top hypno-kink and also have a separate practice of hypnotherapy I have done in the past, like certainly there are ways to have hypnotherapy inform your negotiation, being trauma informed, your goals in scene, how you know certain things might affect people. Like, I think it's fine to have that, especially if you are a therapist who is also kinky, which is very much a thing. It's using the skills in ways that are helpful, but not going so far as to establish a therapeutic relationship with the person that you are engaging in kink with. I'm not a therapist though, so like that is my understanding of like the ethical parameters from a kink perspective. I am not sure what the ethical guidelines would be from like a maintaining your license perspective. That might be different. Maybe kink can help with establishing boundaries not only during play but in real life, just like in therapy. Mental health professionals can assist with boundary setting. Yeah, I think like that's sort of one of the benefits of having a therapeutic relationship is that can be a place to practice things with clients that are helpful for clients, like boundary setting, like not experiencing certain things as being rejection. Absolutely, all of that can be a thing. Yeah. My therapist has told me due to the fact it can bring up unknown triggers, etc., I am to schedule a session post my kink experiences for now to help me process and deal with those triggers. I think like that absolutely makes sense. I think that can be a very helpful, healthy thing to do. We can call think cathartic, but maybe not therapeutic. Yes. Cathartic, I think, is a good word for it. Yeah. It is still not a replacement of therapy. Yep, absolutely. A bit of a heavier topic, but could kink be used to overcome a bad experience? I wonder. Certainly, people will use it like that. I swear every class I am in, especially if it is a heavier topic, like, CNC, for example, or blood play, there is somebody in the class who is using that knowledge to recreate or to vaguely wave at a bad experience they've experienced before, and they use kink as a way to reframe it, recontextualize it, kind of press the rewind button, so to speak, on their bad experience and go through it again. I personally, even though people do it, I would not recommend doing that without having the knowledge and support of some other kind of mental health professional or your like care team in some broader sense. Just because like triggers are a thing, flashbacks are a thing. You don't want to end up causing more harm than you intended and then also not having a fail-safe in place. Because really the risk is like you go into it with every intention of it helping you process something, but really what it ends up doing is it ends up kind of like just spilling all your shit all over the ground, and you can't really put all the pieces back into place quickly enough, and then you end up just feeling like garbage and worse than you did before, and like you really don't want to be in that position and then like not have like dedicated support to help you do that. Yeah. I have a therapist that's kink informed. The dom I sub with is in school to be a therapist, and I found kind to be therapeutic, but my dom is not my therapist. Yes. Yeah. Is meditation the same as kink though? Well, I mean in the sense that I don't think meditation is the same as kink, because like the way you do it is differently, and like I don't know. I feel like it's not exactly the same, but I think you can have. I've never heard of somebody having a meditation kink before. But with any kink, never say never. Like, anything is possible, truly. I'm a trained therapist, but there being a big difference between therapy and kink, or even things like supporting a friend in therapy. Yes, like giving advice is not therapy. Supporting a friend is not therapy. Being a sounding board is not therapy. Therapy and like those other more mundane positions are not the same. It is so much fun trying to explain ABDL things to a new mental health professional. You're brave if you do that, honestly, because like depending on the mental health professional, they are gonna throw up some side eyes about that one. Yeah. I don't even mention it, Anna. It's already hard enough to explain those kinks to everyday people. Yeah, I feel like honestly, the worst people might even be non-therapists. I think honestly, the worst people are probably people with undergrad psych degrees. Because I feel like they're in that area of the curve where it's like, they know some stuff, but they don't really know a lot. But they have a degree that gives them confidence and like a sense of proficiency. And that can be a danger area for overconfidence. Like most people's sex ed that they get via like an actual therapy program is out of date, let alone what you would get from a textbook that's scarcely been updated in 10 years. Explaining the catharsis of impact play to my 55-year-old Southern lady therapist was interesting to say the least. Well, I hope she at least tried to understand. If you're a woman who dates men, don't have student therapist/therapist on your dating profile, a lot of men apparently see that and think, yes, free therapy. Men would literally rather date a woman to get free talk therapy than go to therapy. So there's a meme in there. Yeah, no, I would definitely not recommend that. I mean, I feel like at some point you do have to have disclosure of like, if you're one of, well, maybe you don't, but like, I can see why you'd want to have that disclosure, but also I think yeah. You don't want to be mommy, not like that anyways. You don't necessarily want to be mommy. Undergrad psych degrees are the definition of just enough to be dangerous. Yeah, that's my judgmental opinion. Which, maybe the undergrad psych students can all psychoanalyze for me. Psychoanalyze my opinion about their degrees. I'm certain that won't be biased at all. I found Kink to be helpful to de-escalate my anxiety, but I am completely open and also my therapist and my dom about all of it. Perfect. That is the way to go, I think. Almost all my therapists were like, this is polyamory. Oh, yeah, polyamory. I feel like this could be a function of where I live geographically. I feel like I've had better luck finding therapists that are poly-aware than kink-aware. But a lot of people do kind of like, they're like, oh, that's cool. But then like if you have relationship problems, they are very quick to be like, it's the polyamory, and not like people are shitty sometimes. But coping with anxiety and like life stress is a huge, huge thing for a lot of people with like the kink therapy overlap. Yeah. All right. We have time for one more question. Who's it going to be? Honestly, how many people do this before they do a spanking? I would love to know. Like, can the bottom tell a difference? Does that make a difference? I don't know. I've done CBT and it was sort of helpful, but the biggest thing I've done that's helped my trauma was stare therapy. Interesting. I've definitely come across people who expect me to act like a therapist while topping, and it's something I have to specifically negotiate that I mostly don't agree to, especially when I don't know that. Yes, that is one of the things for sure that people do. I'd love to hear your thoughts on a kink that has a lot of overlap with teratophilia. Transformation. It's varied with a lot of different flavors and motivations. I think it'd make a cool video. Yes, definitely transformation kinks are on my list. I absolutely think it makes sense why people are into transformation. I think many of the kinks I've already talked about in other videos, like monster kinks, like teratophilia, like pet play even, like ABDL. Like a lot of that overlaps with the bimboification. The dollification, that overlaps a lot with transformation stuff. Absolutely. Absolutely, it overlaps a lot. And I think it's a very powerful motivator because, I mean, it's sort of like, you know how when you ask people, like, you know, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? And it's always like, I would want to be invisible. I would want to not feel pain. Like, you know, it's stuff like that. But then, like, being able to turn into anything and being a polymorph is also a big thing on that list, also as well. Science hasn't proven that chocolates covered in chocolate covered strawberries are yummy, so why eat them? You know what? Checkmate. You got me. I'm currently starting to see a guy. It's a psychologist, and one of my first questions for him was, "Please tell me you are not into psychoanalysis." That is an important question for both personal and, you know, a professional trying to find a psychologist person. Psychodynamic theory is different, but psychoanalysis is yeah, not necessarily a fan on a personal level. Yeah. If you're using ink blots in the year 2023 is a serious thing, I'm gonna have eyebrows for you. I'm gonna have a little one of these. Anyways, I think that is gonna be it for tonight, y'all. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. We use every Friday at 6 if you want to check us out. You know, Thanksgiving is coming up, so we will be the 10th and the 17th. We will, I think, I'll have to double check on that. We will be, as far as I know, I'm not sure quite what Thanksgiving plans are for this year, but I think we will do the usual thing of like Thanksgiving weekend here in America. We will not be streaming, but every other week we will be. And then we'll be getting into the Christmas season post Thanksgiving. And let me tell you, we're going to be having fun streams. We're going to be playing games. We're going to have decorations. It's going to be a nice, fun time. Holiday streams are my favorite. I love the season and the dress up and just like everything. It's very fun. Anyways, I gotta go get ready to go to the gym, and like didn't have chance. I brought a protein bar, and I didn't eat it because when I eat these on stream, they make me cough because they're very dry. It's the dry like crunchy texture, which I prefer. I kind of alternate between having like the dry crunchy protein bars and like the soft chewy ones. But I try not to do things that like activate my jaw muscles too much because it makes my jaw pain worse. So I like if it's a chewy versus a crunchy, I'll pick the crunchy. Anyways, let's do a little zoom in on the costume. Hey, baby girl, you want to come up here? You want to come up here? Are you too sleepy? Are you too sleepy, baby? Are you too sleepy? Come on. What? Hi. Oh, you're so sweet. Come here. Come here, little lady. Come here. Come on. Come on. Ta-da! All right. Good night. What? Good night. Good night, everybody. All right. Good night, guys. Good night. Look at that smile. Oh, so sweet. Okay. All right. Bye, guys. Bye.